Ian,
Dave.
Matt.
Hello, Matt. Everybody, we have like the very most special guest I think we've ever had on the show for our 400th episode.
Yeah.
Matt Farah of The Smoking Tire. Welcome, and thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me. Congratulations on the 400. That's a big number.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thank you.
it. Yeah.
That takes some proper commitment.
So I think, we won't do the whole like introduce yourself to the people, because I think anyone who's listening to this is already pretty aware of you and all the things that you're doing over at Smoking Tire.
Taking away the opportunity for me to talk about myself.
Oh, we're going to get to that. Don't worry. But about yourself, one thing that, I think one of the reasons that we're so excited to have you on is that you do such a good job of talking about things other than cars and bringing those things into the conversation and stuff. And, your Twitter handle is Matt Stick to Cars Farah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people would prefer that I stick to cars.
Well, we're excited.
A lot of people very happy. I get a lot of comments that tell me to stay in my own lane.
Yeah.
I've heard that before somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing that we have always tried to do with our show is kind of talk about cars as like a part of the larger culture. And I think that works in both ways, right? Like cars affect the larger culture, but also the larger culture affects our hobby.
Right, of course.
Yeah, so you can't
like everything is political, right? Everything. And to pretend it's not is to be almost ridiculously close-minded.
Yeah.
I think Anthony Bourdain demonstrated very well that food is political, and he didn't have to come out and say those three words. Food is political, but I think it was obvious to anyone watching that show. You could go back to Top Gear and see that cars were political. I think one of the most interesting things of transformations of my lifetime is Jeremy Clarkson kind of coming around a little bit, which is interesting. But it's all related, right? And so you can be an enthusiast and you can like engaging sports cars and you can like driving on racetracks and you can like driving in canyons and you can like modifying cars and expressing yourself through cars. But, you also, I think, should, if you want to be a good citizen of the country and the planet, understand how that it's not just about your relationship with your car. Everything is sort of connected. Your decisions can affect other people. And more importantly, the systematic choices that we make regarding our cars affect so many people. And if you say that it doesn't affect you, chances are it's affected you positively and has affected someone else that you're not thinking too much about negatively. And so the more that I read about the history of our country, the more interested I become in those systems and how I can balance my enthusiasm for going fast and the latest and greatest in car technologies and remaining connected to machines that I like so much, while not being a burden to my neighbors who haven't had the advantages that I've had, and to the planet that needs me to do my little part to take care of it, and also raise awareness of the systems that lobbyists and industries and more have pushed in their chosen directions, generally in search of short-term profit and not in search of creating the optimal environments for people to live in and be happy.
For sure. And I think it's also like a little bit of self-preservation for people in this hobby too, of like, if we're not good neighbors, then, people are going to notice that we're not good neighbors and be less sympathetic to us wanting things like fun internal combustion cars to drive on the weekend at the track or whatever. We can, to your point about like short-term gains, you kind of risk going the like NRA route of like,
right.
we're going to hold on to this thing and only our way, and we're not going to pay attention to the concerns of the people around us. And they're going to end up losing their hobby because of that in long term, right?
Yeah, well, there are people that want to be car enthusiasts and also be good neighbors, and there are people who are, I got mine, fuck you,
right?
And
we could say it, coal rollers, coal rollers.
Well, yeah, I mean that's obviously that's an extreme example,
yeah, right.
But another example is someone who, even if you're not rolling coal, I mean, if you drive around in an urban or suburban environment in a vehicle that is just enormous, and doesn't serve a specific need that its size justifies, you are taking up other people's space. Literally, your existence on the street is inconveniencing others. Your vehicle may fit in the lines just, but but the guy next to you can't open their door.
Right.
And so, I do believe in, as much as I love driving a loud, fast car up a mountain road, I believe in a shared planet. And so while I don't want to necessarily legislate people's choices away, I think that it is, we incentivize as a country certain things that are deeply contradictory to some goals that we really should all have. There is no reason that you should be able to deduct a vehicle from your taxes specifically because it is over a certain weight. I mean, that is pure madness at this point. Yeah. You should be able to deduct a vehicle from your taxes if it is under 2,000 pounds and gets 100 miles a gallon or more, right. and you should not be able to deduct G-Wagons and Range Rovers and Rolls Royces from your taxes because they are so heavy. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
I think that there's an attached piece to it where, like, the fuck you, I got mine kind of automotive enthusiast sees somebody that wants to support good commuting infrastructure and bike lanes and like this coexistence model as lesser than when it comes to like automotive enthusiasm.
Sure.
Right.
And they're addicted. So they don't necessarily realize they're addicted. They don't necessarily think outside of their own life.
That's an interesting word to attach to it, addiction, but that's very appropriate. Yeah.
Well, they are so afraid that their thing will be taken from them. Mm-hmm. They're not thinking about the fact that there's other people out there that are forced into cars every day because there isn't another choice, but that would voluntarily take the other choice if given it.
Right.
Right. And oh, by the way, if those people got off the road that didn't want to be there in the first place, then the people who do want to be on the road would have a better time of it.
Right.
So it's like public transportation makes everybody's life better, including the people who want to use their cars.
Right. Yeah.
But we have this climate of fear, especially from a certain type of person who consumes a certain type of media, that they're coming for your whatever it is, whether it's your gun, which frankly I hope they do come for the gun, and, or their car. And it's like, dude, you live in Kansas City. No one's coming for your car. Right. It's like, I'm trying to make Manhattan habitable. I'm not talking about you.
Well, and I think talking about it in terms of like, of properly incentivizing good behavior and kind of the benefit that you would get from opening these things up is good, because it is a tricky line to walk, because car culture is so tied up in that like freedom idea. Like, when you turn 16, it's your first escape from the house and all that. And I think all of that is tied up in this. And it just gets taken a little bit too far, with, if I don't have a car, then I'm not free.
Right. Well, I think that a lot of studies have shown I felt that way when I got my license. My car and my freedom, in 1997 were the most important things in the world. And my parents scared the shit out of me by saying, if I ever catch you, anywhere near alcohol with this car, we're canceling your insurance. And so, that scared me. And consequently, I barely had a sip of alcohol until I got to college because I was so scared of losing my car. I'm not. I think that the connectivity of today's youth with I don't need to explain how phones and social media work, but plus online gaming and stuff like that. I think that urge has subsided somewhat, not entirely, but somewhat, and certainly in the more urban environments. But look around. No one is impeding someone's right to drive.
Right.
It's not. It's just that nobody likes traffic. Nobody. And nobody likes sitting in traffic. Even the most diehard enthusiast. And I think there are not everybody, but a lot of people would like to not have that time. I mean, we're also working from home. I mean, working from home has been an amazing traffic reliever nationwide. And so, I do believe in walkable urban spaces. I believe in green spaces in our cities. I believe in induced demand. And if you make the highways bigger and you make the parking endless, and I say this as a guy who owns a parking lot. You make the you make the parking endless, and that will incentivize people to drive rather than take alternatives. And I think we should be incentivizing the alternative. Trains are the most environmentally friendly mode of transportation that there is, period, other than walking or bicycles.
Yeah.
So we don't need to invent anything new. It's there. It exists.
But what if we built a tunnel for an absurd amount of money and then
nobody scams dumb council members like that guy. I mean, nobody. It is the Simpsons were way ahead of him.
Yes.
Right? Yep. Yes. Monorail. Yeah. So in a way, you are sticking to cars. I mean, that is the thing. It's just so much. The scope is so much broader, right? Than what anybody.
I always stick to cars.
Right.
You just don't see the connection. I don't mean you. I mean that. They don't see the connection. Right. But yes, I do stick to cars. Yeah. Cars are just much bigger than a lot of people think.
Yeah. I am sticking to cars, dick.
Yeah. That's why I put that there. I mean, because it's. You got to be pretty closed-minded to not see the connection between all that stuff and cars.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like that stuff, that kind of attitude, the really narrow vision, it goes so many different ways. It gets us the Pebble Beach Nazi car, without being oh, maybe that's a weird fucking thing to do. Yeah. Especially right now, guys, there's other cars.
Germany had unlimited resources in the 30s to build the world's most beautiful automobile. Really, did they? Yeah. The Pebble Beach Nazi car. Yeah.
So that very tunnel vision manifests itself in a lot of really interesting ways that
I'd actually be okay with Nazi cars if that was the name of the category. And third place,
call it what it is.
Third place in the fascist division goes to the auto union type C.
They move on to the problematic division.
You just get a kick in the nuts if you
you get a big a swastika wreath put on your
they have to go head to head against Pol Pot's car next,
right.
Now even more people know you're an asshole, so there you go.
That would be killer. Which is pretty cars, but I agree, highly problematic.
Right.
There's it's the same kind of thinking that that makes people say stuff like Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964. We got a 400-year head start, but everyone's on the same playing field now. So
Right.
obviously there are no problems, whatsoever.
Right.
I like to
13
think
years before I was born.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Like, yeah.
I like to think that there are people who just walk around with the picture of George Bush in front of the Mission Accomplished banner just in their head all the time, and that's just how they see the world. Like, we did it.
Well, look, the funny thing is, like, I had to, in order to develop the worldview that I have now, and I'm not saying that I have all the answers or anything. I've read a few books, but other people have read more, and there's certainly plenty of smart people out there, including people that are, what you might call traditional conservatives, not like the Nazi conservatives, but like,
Right.
and that's fine. But I the kind of stuff that I talk about, I had to seek that stuff out. And if I hadn't been sort of shocked into action by, let's be honest, it was the election of Trump. If you go, I was born in 1981, and if you go from when I was born to Obama, when I first cast my vote, it certainly appeared that progress moved,
Right.
onwards and upwards, at least from my position. Maybe not. Maybe other people will hear this and go, "You fucking idiot! You missed all the war crimes." And like, yeah, I missed all the war crimes. I did miss all the war crimes, but like, I was 12. Like, so cut me some slack on the war crimes I wasn't paying attention to. But it certainly appeared, and then you get Trump, and you go, hang on a second, what? How did that happen? What the fuck?
Right. Knowing that it's
in
a
New York,
symptom.
yeah. Well, then I just started asking why, and following certain people on Twitter that were writing about our history, and then I'd buy their book, and then that led to reading about various systems of white flight and redlining, and which, oh, by the way, that's fucking cars.
Yeah. Stick in the cars.
Redlining is cars. The suburbs are cars. Where they put highways is cars. Who they sold houses to, that's cars.
Right. The effective enforcement of those red lines were the highways. Yeah.
Yeah, the dismantling of public transportation. There's cars. Ralph fucking Nader, cars, so all that stuff. But I had to seek it out, and I could have easily elected to not seek it out.
Right.
And consequently, I could have just gone about my, white, somewhat wealthy, somewhat privileged life and been like, what do you mean it's not a free country for everybody? I'm free right now, And so yeah, but shout out to the Dollop podcast and many other sources of real American history.
Nice. I think that oftentimes people that are the most honest about a given topic, are the ones that are oftentimes least happy, right? Like we always say that, like, our
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Our show is like one part cars, 2 parts therapy, and so like unpacking that.
Oh, my show is definitely therapy. Yeah,
right?
Yeah. Learning things sucks. Yeah, it's not good. You're not. Yeah, no one is. You have to really reach, like, maybe there's like another. Maybe it's like you go through a valley and then eventually you hit some kind of Zen, thing where it's like, yeah, and then we all die. So fuck it. We might hit that segment of the broadcast soon. I don't know.
At least we smelled a few roses on the way, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Did some burnouts.
Well, look, it's important to read history, but it's also important to go outside. I mean, honestly, like, I'm not, no bullshit. Fucking, you got to go outside and you got to, like, I do a lot of traveling, both in the country and globally. And despite what you think, it's kind of important to separate a region's politicians from their average everyday people, most of whom, granted, I have every advantage when it comes to interacting with people. And so I try to recognize that, if I looked a little different or was a different color or dressed a little different, or was trans or something, that may be a completely different story. But I try to give, at least on an individual level, most folks an opportunity to be decent before I pass judgment, but I know enough Black people and trans people and queer people that not everybody has that luxury, and they have to put up some walls, and that's shitty.
Yeah.
That's super shitty.
Right.
So I think the least we can do is, make room for those folks where we can.
Absolutely.
I'm not perfect with pronouns, but I try.
Hey, no, like, and I'm very thankful for folks like the Out Motorsports, Gears and Queers, like all of these people that are making like a huge push into that space, because like being othered is something that no one wants to be, no one should be, right? And we fully recognize that as, two white dudes with a car podcast that like we are speaking from a place of privilege, right? And and guess what? That's afforded us things and also cars. So here we are sticking to fucking cars.
Yeah. Yeah. When I talked to the Out Motorsports guy on my show,
Jake,
I was like, he was great. And I was just like, what, I meant in earnest, like, what does being gay have to do with liking a car? And he's sort of like, nothing and everything.
Right.
He really educated me on that. And so, what those folks are doing is definitely good.
Well, and I think it's a similar, I think that sort of like connection is similar to what we were talking about earlier with cars large, as a culture, as a subculture, and its place in the larger culture is sort of the same thing as like identity and being a part of any sort of subculture, right? Like stuff is so tied up with each other. You can't really separate it. And it's the like idea that everyone around you is the same as you. So you don't think of who you are as an identity, but the wingadingas, as regular car view says, those guys, that's an identity too. They just don't think about it in those terms.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's become I'm sure it was always this way. The internet has accelerated it. Instagram particularly, because now people's Instagram it's written on their car. I mean, which never do that.
Fucking hilarious. Yeah.
It's hilarious. I mean, like, you got to be the number of people that have. And I just had the president of SEMA on my show last week, and it went up today. And he was like, the number of people that drive around with like illegal parts on their car, their Instagram handle on their car, linked to their like build, and it's like catless this and nitro met that. Yeah. And it's just like you are just the dumbest person on the planet. I mean, and yet I kind of get it, because I interact with a lot of people whose entire identity is, I mean, maybe not around the dinner table, but once they leave their house, their entire identity is wrapped around their car.
Yeah.
I'm a Mustang guy.
Yeah.
I'm a Mopar guy. And I'm not just a Mopar guy. I'm the Mopar guy.
Right.
I've got the fucking Hellcattiest Hellcat that there fucking ever was. Like, I tow my Hellcat with a TRX, and I tow that with a blah blah blah. Like, it's just, and so it's very funny that the way that works, but it ties into that is this person's their Instagram is Hellcat guy 712 or whatever,
right? And
it's you can't separate it. And I think I love cars. I collect cars. I've certainly, some of my cars have gotten some press, either because they were my cars or because people thought they were cool, and that's great. Like, I love driving a cool car. I like when getting the thumbs up. I like when a media outlet wants to do a story on my car. Like, awesome, cool. Like, but I'm glad that I've never been like so tied to any one car that it's been like, but you're the guy with that with that one car. And it's like, I actually do other things sometimes.
I think that I'm really glad that we've kind of stumbled into this territory about like your ownership specifically, because I think that you are one of a very select few, media personalities, YouTubers, what have you, where your enthusiasm for the things that you have is so infectious, and that when you get a car, it seems like we get a car as well.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. That's fun. I like to think I'm a market maker. Yeah.
Well,
Well,
yeah, that was one of the things we
I
wrote
think-
down was the Porsche
Yeah.
situation. Yeah.
yeah.
In some ways, I've been fortunate enough financially to be like 6 months ahead of my peer group when it comes to buying cars.
Yeah.
So I can always buy shit like right before it. I buy what I want. I don't. It's very rare that I would buy a car specifically because I think it's a good investment. But it's just what I want. But
Right.
I've always been able to be 6 months to a year ahead of when everybody else decides they want them. And that, if I create a little bit of content with that car, maybe that does help a bit. I'm certainly not popular enough to move the whole market, but it might help a bit.
Well-
Especially if I can create some content and the car like isn't a piece of junk like everybody thought it would be.
Mhm.
True.
But I always buy the stuff I like. I started with the stuff I wanted when I was a kid, and as anyone should. I mean, I'm always surprised when folks ask me, I want to get into collecting cars. Like, what should I buy? What's a good investment? And I'm like, buy the thing you wanted when you were 18 and couldn't afford. Like,
Yeah.
that's where you should always start.
Yeah.
I've had a couple of hits. I haven't had a lot of misses. But
Well, I think you were
it's been
definitely ahead of the curve with the Fox bodies, right? The IRS swap Fox body.
a
like
little
that
bit,
was
a little bit ahead. Yeah. Those have gotten really popular, and for a good reason. They're
Yeah.
awesome. I mean, they're really, there's not a lot of like, the formula for collecting isn't that hard. If it looks cool, if it sounds good, and if it's a manual transmission, you're pretty much locked in. Everything else is pretty secondary to that in terms of will this eventually become collectible.
It's so funny. There's
Fox
like
bodies, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say that there's a weird tipping point too, where like there was a time like 10, 15 years ago where there were still enough Fox bodies on the road where you would see one and you'd be like, well, that's a shitty old, rat box or whatever. And then like enough of them fell off the road that you would then see them.
Yeah.
They became exclusive.
Yeah. One day you saw one and it
Yeah.
was like, that looks like a spaceship in modern traffic now, like it's so
Yeah.
strange.
Yeah, well, that's another time that there's a lot of cars that you think it's common until you go try and look for one.
Yeah.
And a perfect example of this is the 98 to 2000 Honda Civic Si.
Yes.
Right?
People are going $45,000 for a Civic Si. That's fucking crazy. That's money laundering. That's bullshit. Whatever. Okay, go find one.
Right.
Go. You know what I mean? Like you try. Go find one. Clean title, minimal mods. Never been registered in Florida. No body work. Like good luck. Like
Right.
how much time and energy will it take you to find that car? And the answer is a shitload. It'll take you a shitload of time to find that car. Another great example right now, I think 996s Porsches are on their way up.
Love them. Always loved them.
And they're great cars by any standard. They're not the greatest by Porsche's standard, but Porsche's standard is very high. And my physical therapist actually just spent 6 months looking for a 996 and went through 3 or 4 PPIs. Anything under 40 grand was a complete shitball. I mean, really, really bad. And he was like, but everyone told me these things were like 30 grand. And it's like, well, you want one that's not a piece of junk. And like, those are now, and he went round and round and round and ultimately, he spent 45 on a pretty clean car with no stories, but that still needed like 5 Gs in maintenance. I mean,
Right.
you know, but
ultimately
you know,
probably ahead of where he would have been if he had made a 30 grand one come up to that
100%.
point. Right?
Right.
Oh, dude, he looked at one for like 28 grand, and I sent it to I sent the PPI report to my Porsche guy to get a second opinion, and my guy went, Marco at TLG Auto, who I love. He goes, dude, I wouldn't even touch that motor. I would just take it out and put in a different one. So for 28 grand, he was going to buy a car that needed a $25,000 engine.
Right.
You know,
Wow.
and so so you know. The very good examples, Fox bodies is a great one, Hondas, you know, 996s, whatnot. My BMW M3s, you know, my E46 M3. You can buy one of those for 20-25 grand, and it'll be halfway to fucked,
Right.
you know. Or you can buy the best one around, and it'll be 80 grand. And if you tell someone you spent 80 grand on an M3, they'll think you're nuts. But like, try to find one that nice yourself. And how much time and energy are you gonna put into that mission? And if you're someone who makes a lot of money, you know, and I'm not trying to be snobby, but if you make a couple $100 grand a year and your dream car is that Civic that you wanted in college and you could only get the CX
Right.
and not the SI,
Yep.
you know, and now you want it. Well, what's 40 grand versus 25? Write the check.
Yeah.
You know,
Life is
again,
short.
it's
man.
a lot of
Go
money.
for
I'm
it.
not trying to
Yeah.
be snobby. I
Right.
realize that for a lot of people, that's a ton of money, and I'm not trying to be a dick, but if you got a great job and you make a lot of money and that's your dream, just buy the good one. You
Yeah.
know, you know. So anyway.
No. Also, I think it's a great case of like something that might be the thing you want the most is not necessarily the best that a company has to offer, right? Like I feel like
Sure.
that I feel like, you know, some of the automotive choices that we are lucky enough to make, like we're not buying the best thing that we can, but it is that thing that we want, right? Or the thing that we think is the
I mean,
coolest.
sure, yeah. Well, there's, you know, as I talk to like Ed Bolian, you know, Ed
Yeah.
Bolian, he buys pretty ratty examples of amazing cars,
Yeah.
you know, and if he buys a salvage title Mercy for, you know, 60% of what it would cost to get a great one, is he getting more than 60% of the ownership experience of a great one? And he believes that he is, you know, and that's fine too. If you buy a rear wheel drive Skyline GTST,
Right.
you know, are you getting more than 50% of the fun of a all wheel drive, you know, Skyline GTR? Like in some cases, yeah, you probably are, and you know, you can. There are subgenres where you don't have to buy the most desirable thing to have just as much fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In some cases, like, you know, that example I used of the E46 M3, I bought like a $3,000 325i wagon, and Zach and I did a film with it where I turned it into a rally car,
Mm-hmm.
and it was like a piece of junk, like it was a beater. But even as a 210,000 mile beater, it was still put together so nicely and so solid, and it had so many nice things about it that I was like, oh, this, like, if this was just my car, like that would be all right. Like I wouldn't be upset. Like this feels like a nice thing. And so I actually made what was probably the wrong choice, which was to then be like, well, what would the best one be like? And I went out and I spent all the money for the mintest M3 on the planet.
Right.
And I probably shouldn't have done that. I just sold it actually. And because it was so nice, I couldn't drive it.
Right.
Yeah.
It was
Sometimes you
actually
gotta
too nice.
Sometimes you gotta go there to come back. Though. Like
Yeah, it's the first time I've ever bought a car like that where the value of it was very high because the condition of it was extraordinary. You know, it was showroom new.
Yeah.
And there are probably some people out there who would love to have the experience of buying a showroom new 2005 M3 as an alternative to buying a brand new M3,
Yeah.
and just use it as their car. But for me, I have so much like mechanical sympathy and sympathy for the car that when it's that nice, I can't enjoy it without being super stressed. So it had to go. I like my 40,000 mile Ferrari 328 better because I can just use it as a car. It doesn't have original paint. So I don't really give a shit about some of the things that drove me nuts with the BMW. And consequently, I have a lot of great adventures in that car.
Right.
And it's a little more liberating.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like there is definitely something in not having something that is precious, right? Like having a car with hail damage, having something with some peeling clear coat, like that gives you a little bit of freedom, to be honest, right?
Right. And also, I think one of the lessons for me of that car was unless you like I just said, unless you really want the experience of starting from brand new in a way that you can't anymore most of the time, which I understand if someone wants that. That's an experience that you might want to have. Buying to go back to Ed Bolian, buying a fairly tired example of a very rare car is a little more freeing than buying a mint example of a car that people perceive to be fairly common, even if it's hard to find one. So rarity usually will win that one, and it doesn't have to be quite so mint because a lot of the value comes from the rarity and not from the condition.
Yeah. I think to kind of loop back to that, like you get a car, we all get a car. Like with your Lamborghini Countach, like what you're doing with like all of the rebuild and all of the mechanical pieces, like seeing somebody put that amount of work into a car that just because they want to be able to use it, just because they like you are turning it into the thing that you want, right?
Right. Well, that car, it's an amazing car. It's really fun to drive. It's also, and it's relatively low mileage. It's got 34,000 kilometers on it, which is about 22,000 miles or so. Which for a Countach is medium. It's low for the grand scheme car, but for a Countach it's medium. But if I just wanted to collect it and not drive it, I could skip out on all that stuff. It ran fine. But once I went through that process with the Ferrari and I saw the difference between what it was before and what it was after, it was staggeringly different. And so, the Countach it's a work of art. It's beautiful. It's striking. It's rare. And it drove really nice. It's clunky and it's at slow speeds, but once you're moving, it drives really, really nice. And so once I saw the difference in, tightness with the Ferrari, I thought, okay, well, look, this is something that's worth doing. Not to mention the fact that I'm way up on that car from a value perspective. With the Ferrari, it was risky because I did it before the value jump. So I had to go in the hole a little bit. Now, fortunately, that market has come back to me. Not a little bit, not, and I have no desire to sell that car. That thing rules. So I don't care.
Well, and the other great thing about that process is the videos that you got out of it are great because
that's YouTube, right? You got to monetize your pain.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I loved every interaction between you and I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. The guy who
Donnie.
Yes.
Yeah, Donnie. Yeah.
Where you could just
you
could see the price list just scrolling, and you could see it in your eyes as he's talking. It's pretty great.
Oh, if you think the Ferrari one was bad, wait till you see the Lamborghini one. The Lamborghini one is. I just got a bill for just suspension components. Just suspension components.
Okay.
Nothing else. It was $13,000
Oh my God.
for bushings, you know, and tie rod ends and shit like that.
Just the
And that
wear
doesn't even
items.
Yeah. No, it's not. That's not the shocks. It's like it's just the bullshit. The shocks are separate. I haven't even gotten the bill for the shocks yet, and there's 6 of them. It's got dual shocks in the rear.
Oh, that's right. Oh my God.
That's my used Lexus LS 460 right there.
I know.
In rubber bushings.
It's a car. It's a whole car. I mean,
like a great car.
Yeah.
No, it's fucking crazy. And
my voice
it's
got
really
real high there.
And also, you know, we're talking about a fairly minor grand scheme of things. It's not like a restoration. We're not touching the body.
Right.
We're not touching the interior. It's a mechanical refresh. And by the time we're done, it'll probably be $50,000 or $60,000, and it'll probably be a year. That car went to him in October of last year. It might even be longer. I mean, honestly, it might be longer.
Yeah.
And by the way, I drove it to him. It's not like it was broken and went there on a flatbed.
You didn't pull it out of a barn.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I drove it to him because, you know, I drove it to him because the driver's side crank for the window broke. That was it. It was a window crank. And it's like, while you're in there,
I was going to say that's the
suspension, all the brakes, pull the engine out.
Yeah.
You know, we're pulling the engine out next week.
That's the king of while you're in there stories. For sure.
Yeah. And, you know, fortunately, I'm not stressed about it because the value of those is so much higher than when I bought it.
Right.
That it makes sense at this point. It's not even a question. It makes, just purely financially, it makes sense to do it, you know. And now and what happened to all Italian cars from the 80s and early 90s was they went through such a low point in value.
Mm-hmm.
All of them, whether it was, I mean, Testarossas were 40 grand, 308s were 25, 30 grand, Countachs were under 100 for the time, you know, for a time. They went through such a lull that it wasn't worth doing the maintenance correctly. It just wasn't. Like, people just, they didn't know what they were getting into. They didn't want to spend 30 grand on a car they spent 30 grand on, you know. It was, and so there's all kinds of Mickey Mouse shit. Unless the car had unless it was Rod Stewart's car from 1988 to 2005.
Yeah.
And it all one owner all the way through that period.
Serviced at the same Ferrari dealership in Malibu or whatever.
Yeah.
It was
30 years.
Yeah, not only that, not only was it not only one owner, but one owner that lived near a truly qualified, you know, you look at some of the service records for my car and it's like Tom's Foreign Auto, like who the fuck are you? Like, what, you know, what, you know, and the stuff that we found in there was just insane.
I mean, you're at least in California where they know how to say the word Ferrari. My dad has Maserati biturbos that we race in Champ Car.
Seriously? Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's awesome.
He lives in Wisconsin.
Good for you.
Like, I don't know if you've ever tried to source an alternator for a Maserati biturbo at Road America on a Saturday, but
dude, it's probably the same as like a Chrysler LeBaron
or a fucking vegetable.
You know what we did? We ended up doing? We ended up getting a Ferrari, or a Chevy small block alternator, and then constructing a bracket out of wood.
Carpentry was involved, Matt. Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, on my, you know, my Countach, it ran when parked. Like, I drove it to Donnie's. Like, I put a bunch of miles on it. He starts taking stuff out. Well, it turns out the water pump had been welded back together. You know, and it's not like the part didn't exist. I mean, even 10 or 15 years ago, it was probably a $400 or $500 part to fix. And it just like, and it was like someone spent the time and energy welding this back together rather than just going, we need to replace the water pump and then doing that. And so, and again, my car was a good running car. And so, you know, even the good ones, you don't really know what's going on in there until you start taking it apart. So
Even people
Fortunately,
with
Donnie is like-
Lamborghinis have a lot of bad days in a 30-year span, you know, like you never know.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Donnie is replacing every part that's wrong with the OEM part.
Amazing.
And
Amazing.
it's weird because there's all these like excuses. My car had this really bizarre computer wired into the fuel system.
Oh, that's right.
And-
yeah.
Yeah. And the last guy told us that it was to make the car run on 91 octane, which is absolutely ridiculous because the car came to California when they had 91 octane. Those cars were sold new here when they had 91 octane. They ran just fine on 91 octane. It had absolutely nothing to do with that. Well, it turns out the that computer was wired in as a way to get the car to cheat through smog. You could program a really lean cycle and have it run like crazy lean to pass smog.
They call it it's the
insane.
switch on the dash that's labeled VW mode.
yeah.
Right. There's a USB port in this thing. I mean, it was just insane. And so we're taking all that garbage out. And I'm a car dealer now, so I don't need to. I can drive on dealer plates. I don't ever have to smog cars. So we're doing Euro. And then look, I'm old enough, and I try to be a citizen of the world. I would never take cats out of my own car.
Right.
At this point, it doesn't make any power. It just gives you carbon monoxide poisoning.
Right.
It doesn't. Even my Porsche Boxster, which has a literal racing engine in it, has a fully functional emission system. But this car, if you go through the service records, which I have, going back to about 1997, this car has failed smog every year since the late 90s.
That's like a badge of honor at this point. Yeah.
It's hilarious. And so I imagine eventually they got fed up and put this dumb computer in.
They were like, we're going to keep trying.
It has cats. Yeah, it's not like it doesn't have cats. Like it has cats, but like it just, Lamborghini must have just been like, fuck you. I don't know, what do they care?
Yeah.
And so if this thing had never passed smog once in its life. And so I personally don't feel obligated to make it past smog now.
Right. Yeah,
I'd rather just convert the thing to Euro and have it run like it's supposed to at this point. For 1,500 miles a year, I think it's probably okay.
Yeah, you're doing fine.
What a car. Yeah, my daily driver is electric. I think and I ride a Vespa most of the time. I think my carbon footprint is balanced out all right.
Yeah, you're doing okay.
yeah. I think you're doing just fine, Matt. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Right?
Yeah. It's
Italian
so
cars, man.
Yeah.
So once he's done with it, eventually, it should run, better than it ever has.
Dude, I cannot wait to see it.
Yeah, it should be great. Yeah, I'm gonna drive it all over once it's done.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I want to make sure we have time to play a game. So let's.
All right. What do you got?
Let's do that. So we do this game on the show. It's like Highlights Magazine, Match the Match. We're going to give you 3 cars with their license plates blacked out, and then we'll give you the text of 3 vanity plates, and then you will
all right.
have to match.
I'll know what kind of cars they are.
Yeah. So you're going to see a picture of the car. The vanity plate will be blocked out. There'll be 3 of them, and then there'll be the text of 3 vanity plates. So we'll start. Okay. I believe, if I remember right, you had like one of your first cars, or maybe your first car was a Corvette. Is that right?
It wasn't my first car, but I had a C5 Corvette from 1998 to 2016. I had a very long time.
That's right. Yeah. And did you have a vanity plate? Car.
I did not have a vanity plate. No,
Okay.
I have had vanity plates on other cars. I think I've outgrown it.
Yeah.
The last one that I had was on my Fox body, and the license plate was the IRS.
Yeah.
Which was a double entendre because I put in an independent rear suspension in the car from a more modern Mustang.
Okay.
But also because it was a project car, it was fully tax deductible. So that was my my double entendre.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't had one since though.
Well, we have a Corvette specific license plate game.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've got another one if that's the other one.
Oh, okay.
It's called Vetapalooza.
All right. Here we go. So, I'm also seeing this for the first time.
You guys are playing together.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we playing against each other?
Sure, or with each other.
Cool.
Yes.
We do co-op mode. It's all right.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
can do
I'm gonna
zoomies and
go. I'm gonna go
enhances.
with the tan top convertible C7 is go for par.
Man, right for it,
That is
huh?
a golfer. That's a
love it.
golfer.
Yep. Yep.
We can zoom in and enhance too, because there's some context clues as well on some of these.
Yeah. Yeah. We have a white. These are all what? C7s? Yeah. The license plate says, feel safe at night, sleep with a cop.
Ew, that guy's definitely got at least one DV charge. 100%. 100%, dude. You see a cop like that? That's someone who beats their fucking wife. Dude, for sure. And that's obviously going to be Badge Bunny.
Okay. Okay.
Right?
Oh, Badge Bunny,
BDG.
sleep with a cop. Yep.
Isn't that Badge Bunny?
That could be. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I like that. And then the yellow
And I'm
one up here.
guessing, and I'm going to go further. It's his wife's car.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the car he told his wife to drive. Yeah.
Right.
See, now
Right.
not every
Funny,
guest.
I'm gonna put this in your name.
Yeah.
What I
The
appreciate
tax.
about this is not every guest just gets right into the meat of this game like you have, where it really rewards just gross generalizations about people, and you're A+. Yes.
Yeah, no notes, Matt.
All right. So
and then I gotta go with a yellow convertible with a wing on it, legal racer, absolutely. Can't even get on a track day with that thing because of the no roll bar.
Yep.
And that's going to be that. The guy thinks he's a racing driver in a convertible. Am I right?
you have any changes, Dave? You think that's
it has to be right.
yeah?
Yeah.
Let's take a look at the solution.
Yeah. Vetapalooza. Here's the answers.
Matt, you fucking nailed it.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
I know my
just-
Corvette owner.
I thought
100%.
maybe you would do well on that one. Okay.
That's 100%.
I just piggybacked. I barnacled on the bat for the answers for that one. Dude, amazing.
There's
Amazing.
something you should know about me. I am almost never surprised by anybody.
Yep.
People are almost always who I think they are.
Yeah.
Well, good. Okay. So I have one that's a little bit trickier.
Okay.
And it's a little bit more like this is outside the realm of like car people. This is more like hippy dippy people. We do live in Colorado.
Right. Yes, of course.
Oh, I should also shout out Ben, who sent all these Corvette plates to me on over Twitter. Our listeners send these in to us to put in
cool.
this. So thank you, Ben. The next one is called Beautiful Mind ? And this is all ones that I've seen personally.
Yeah. Also new to me. So yeah.
Same license plate game. Oh,
Yes.
Yep. We have a blue Tesla S at the top. We've got a silver Accord in the middle and an X5 down at the bottom here.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. The Tesla is not an empath.
Right. Yeah.
There's no chance of that.
Well, and do some zoom and enhance, because this has, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a Virginia license plate and it's got the SR71 Blackbird on the license plate, which is pretty rad, actually.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also a Model S 75,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
which is okay.
A choice.
And then you've got this basic Accord,
Yep.
and then you've got an X5. It's like a 6-cylinder, very dirty. Some other stickers on the back window.
Yeah. And we've had clear weather in Colorado long enough that you can wash that thing. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, there's one here, Synapse, Cynapze for the audio only listeners, like spelled in the way from like that, the dude from Silicon Valley that was like their systems admin, the way that he would spell it.
Yeah.
Right.
Interestingly enough, you know what's crazy? I actually know a neurosurgeon in New York who has it spelled right on his license plate.
That is amazing.
SINAPSE on his license plate.
Huh.
He's like one of the best neurosurgeons in New York. It's my friend's dad.
That's
He's got
amazing.
it, and he's got it on a G-Wagon. Boss.
Baller
Shout out,
move.
shout out to Jack Stern. Shout out to Jack Stern neurosurgery. I think Synapse is going to be the X5.
Okay.
I think Empath is going to be the. I actually think Empath is going to be the Tesla because they have very high opinions of themselves.
Okay.
And I think Cosmic Dust will be the Honda.
Okay.
What were you thinking, Dave?
I was thinking that Synapse was the Tesla, but Cosmic
because science.
Yeah, because science, just science in general. We're just throwing like all the Tesla and LOL gas and no oil. All those plates are already taken, and so now their Tesla folks are really reaching.
I heard a science word once.
right.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So maybe Synapse, but
Tesla license plates are like the bootlicking Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
They
Elon
are
Mars. Shut up.
Yeah. But I'm wondering if Synapse is the X5 or the Accord driver's DJ name. Like they are DJ Synapse. Right? Yeah. And
very interesting.
And then Cosmic Dust makes me think that it would be the Tesla. So I think I'm gonna go wild with this one. I'm gonna go Empath on the BMW. I'm going Synapse on the Accord and Cosmic Dust on the Tesla.
It's Empath on the BMW because their turn signal is done via ESP. Just all right, let's see the solution.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I gotta go to the Dave Don't Look folder.
Yeah. I think what we're learning here is that Matt is very, very good at this game.
Yeah.
Oh, did I get it?
You nailed it.
Jesus, Matt.
Empath.
6 for 6, baby. I'm never surprised by anybody.
Dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing. Yeah. I almost drove off the road to get that Empath photo. I was so excited.
It's funny. They almost drove off the road for a completely unrelated.
Yeah. But like Empath with the SR71 plate is mind-boggling.
Yeah, right.
I don't understand that at all.
Yeah.
This is Robin. Listen, I feel really bad, but fuck it, bombs away.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. Weird. Weird shit.
They care that you should be able to outrun a missile.
Right.
Like, that you get satisfaction out of that.
In a way, we're all flying at 100,000 feet.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it has no fuel to leak when it's on the ground. So, there you go.
If you're going to have a Virginia license plate, though, SR71 Blackbird's all right. I can fuck with that.
Yeah. No, that's rad.
A couple of weeks ago on this show, I was like, everybody needs to cool it with the special license plates. It's too many. And now I'm like, well, I get that.
I mean, I don't get me wrong. Like I've had moments where I've seen a cool license plate and gone, I'll feel you. Right. But here in California, there's a hierarchy of like, if you have a California license plate, custom or not, like you are a pretty much a lower class citizen. And then if you have a license plate on your car that's from like a different state, then you're like the next level up.
Okay.
And then in the really fucking rich people, they just don't have plates on their cars. They just drive around, no tags, and they don't give a fuck. And then my other friend, I don't want to blow up his spot by using his name, but he achieved a new status. We went for a drive together in his 1965 Lamborghini 350 GT, and he had the Italian Prova plate from the 60s.
Oh my god.
And like that was like the next level above no plates. Having said that, he was pulled over and ticketed. Cop was like, what is this?
Just typing it into the Panasonic Tough Book and just spitting an error message out at
going on. No, I swear, officer, it's registered. Like, okay, like I don't even know what this thing is. And I have personally exited that system by becoming a dealer. And so now I'm
there you go.
Now I'm on dealer tags. Ain't nothing fucking heavier than a dealer tag. Take my picture, bitch.
Yeah.
Tell the CHP. I'm fucking legal. I don't give a fuck, bro.
Yeah, you don't surprise me. You surprises, bitch.
Yeah. But if I see a good one for your game, I'll grab it and share it. There's certainly no shortage of it. In California
is amazing with vanity plates. Yeah, I feel like Hawaiian.
It's amazing with
plates,
vanity.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Yeah, and
we are a vain state. It's just the way it goes.
They just started offering black plates in Colorado, and it's amazing that you can fuck up something that's supposed to be so cool. It looks like I printed it.
How do they fuck it up?
It looks like I printed it on my laser printer. It's like completely
is it the flat
and white text.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the digital? Is it a digital plate or a plate?
It's a plate. Yeah.
Oh, so we now have these digital plates, which are
like the e-ink shit. Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah, like it's you can if the car gets stolen, they'll change it so the plates read stolen.
Oh boy!
And like you can pay your registration by the month. It's like buy here, pay here for registration.
Oh my god!
It's not something I want on my car.
Right. You're gonna have to update the firmware on your plate at some point, and that's gonna fucking suck.
Yeah. Or the battery's gonna die or something. It's totally fucking. But the one I can't believe they do in Colorado is the rental car plates. That's really surprising.
The fleet plates.
You know what? I thought that was really bizarre when I first moved here, but I've come to really appreciate it.
We like it.
Because it just tells you who you need to give a real wide berth to, especially on like mountain roads and stuff. I totally
understand that.
Yeah.
But they used to put like stickers on the cars that said like Hertz and shit.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think they outlawed that because they were like targets for vandalism and crime.
Yeah.
And so like people, the rental car would get broken into, people's luggage would get stolen.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's more than just rental cars. So it's also like any fleet vehicle. Yeah. So there's, all the Suburbans have them and whatever. So,
but if you get cut off by a base model Ultima and you see that plate, you're like, all right, only half fuck you. You get
I
half
rented
a
an
bird.
Ultima in Texas in March. It was horrid. It was absolutely horrid.
Fastest car in the world.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Swanging. It's won the Hogwalla World Championships 4 years in a row.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That was a good game. That game. That's a good game.
We played that on the show.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun because, like I said, it's it rewards gross generalization, but in a fun way.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Matt, I think we've had about an hour, and I think we did a car show. Tell the people all the places to go find the Smoking Tire.
YouTube, podcast, Twitter, Instagram. We technically have a TikTok, but Zach runs it. I don't even fuck with TikTok, so I don't even know what's on there. I'm too old for doing new social media. Sorry, I'll be over here. Of course, if anyone is in LA and needs a place to keep a car, or if you're shipping a car to LA or from LA and you need help with that, Westside Collector Car Storage, WCCS.com. Now with 2 locations, Playa Vista and Gardena. We're opening our second location this week. So by the time your audience hears this, we will be open for business down there, which is very exciting. And pick up next month's issue of Road and Track magazine, where I'm editor at large. And don't worry, I will stick to cars.
That was a great outro. Dave, if people enjoy this, what should they do?
Send us vanity plates. You can text them straight to 720-515-1391. That's the Vanity Plate hotline.
Yeah.
You subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave us an iTunes review. Buy a sticker. Apex Adjacent.
Yeah. Everybody, we love you. Matt, thank you so much. Goodbye.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it. Good times.